Welcome from my home to yours. Today we're going to be talking about the question that I get all the time as a real estate agent, and that is this: when is the best time to buy and sell real estate? The answer to that question, in my opinion, is really simple. It's one word: it's budget. What is your budget? If you have a true family worked out budget, you know exactly when is the best time to buy and sell real estate because your budget will tell you the answer to that question. Today, we're going to focus primarily on the buyer side. And so what I have found being in this business for now almost 8 years, having done a ton of transactions, especially inside of the buyer space. I used to be a buyer's agent specifically, so I worked with buyers for a very long time. I found that so many of them didn't work their budget in the same way that most of us who are in a business would work our budget for our businesses. And so today, I'm going to look at everything from that perspective of budget. So when is the best time for you to buy a home has everything to do with your budget. And so let's take a look at that. Let's look at your budget and understand, is now a good time? Okay, so let's take a look at what it really looks like to budget our household the way we would do a business. So if we're gonna look at the budget for our household, here's the deal. We will often forget about all of the things that really go into running that household. So we've got to be able to create a gross, and expenses, and a net. And our net's gonna be, quote unquote, our profit inside of our business. So let's look at this. If I were going in here, I'd say, so my bills, I've gotta pay gas for my vehicle, cost me what, $80 to fill up my tank, so $320 a month for gas. I'm gonna go in here for my car payment, let's say my car payment is gonna be another, $400 a month, okay? So I got $400 a month there. Then my utilities, let's see, I can't spell very well, just pretend like that says utilities, even though it looks really terrible. It's going to be $225. This is how y'all can tell I'm doing this in real time. The internet, you're looking at your internet because everybody needs the internet. It's going to be $60. You look at your phone's going to be, let's say, $200 a month. Looking at your food is really expensive these days, so let's say you're going to give yourself another $1,200 a month. And then you get into your health insurance. Health insurance is going to cost you another $600 a month. And then you look at your current living expenses, and if we were taking that into account, my current living expenses, let's say I'm renting or I own a home, my starter home, and I'm $1,800 a month into my home, whether again that's renting or owning. And then I've got a miscellaneous expense going on at, let's say, $500 a month, okay? So when we add this up all together, so we've taken everything into account, we're going to see expenses are for our home is going to be $52.05, okay? Hopefully I did my math right. If I didn't and y'all are making fun of me online, that's cool. So now you got that $52.05. So I've got $52.05 in expenses every single month, okay? I know this sounds very elementary, but most people don't stop and take their time to do this piece first. And this is the most important piece on whether or not it's the right time to buy a home. So we got $52.05 in our expenses. Now, let's say that we make about $7,000 a month, okay? So if we make about $7,000 a month, we're going to take home around, what is that going to be about? $1,795. So now we've got $1,795 after expenses is going to be our net, or if you're in a business, it's going to be your profit. And so my household profit is $1,795. Now inside of that $1,795, let's be honest, you need to be able to do things like charity or whatever that looks like. We're going to call it our tithe of charity. Inside of that space, you're going to be doing your savings. So we're going to put our savings into play. Inside of that space, we're going to do rainy day funds. Okay. That profit is still going to be some of these things that may not have to be done, but the reality is that inside of your income, they should be being done. And so now we've got our budget worked out. This is what our household looks like. And so if it's time for me and I'm ready to buy a home, I'm already putting $1,800 into my home. If I were to look at today's market and look at what $1,800 is going to get me, you're probably going to be seeing around, $175 to $195 is going to be about the price of a home that you can find inside of that $1,800 a month. Is it the right time to buy a home? It doesn't matter what the market is doing. What matters is, can I purchase a home? Because if you look at the history of a home is always appreciating at some level. Even in the extremes, you've seen homes appreciate at some level. Now, you may have some time where this little guy took a turn and then it picked back up. But the reality is that we've always seen homes as a great investment. The return on that investment has been wonderful. It doesn't matter what the market conditions are. What matters is, can I take this budget that I already have inside of my house, go search for a new home, and add potentially another $1,000 to, let's say, $1,500 a month to my housing expense to be able to get to the place where I can now buy, a $280,000 to $350,000 home. And the reason why I look at that $280,000 to $350,000 home, if you're inside of the city of Houston, this is becoming more and more standard for what your starter home is going to look like, and even some cases that next level home. And so if you're looking at it and you're trying to figure out, well, what do I do next? Well, this is what you do next. You do your budget next, and from your budget, you're able to figure out, this is what I can afford. This is what I'm willing to take from this. I'm willing to take another $1,000 from this, and I'm willing to have only $795 as a net from my world, and that's going to be okay with me. You may look at this and say, there's no way, I can't do that. Well, now may not be the right time to buy a home, and we need to start looking at our budget and figuring out what we can do to fix our budget, figuring out what we can do to earn more income, or we just wait and see what market conditions can do to be more favorable. Waiting game, this is a gamble. This is on purpose. This is putting effort into your world. This is taking into effect like what it is going on in my life. Like, this is how I know if I'm ready to buy a home. When I purchased my first home, it would have been never done if I would have looked at it from a perspective of, what's the market doing? Should I buy a house right now? And taking the advice of people who were looking at it from a perspective of like, the conditions are terrible, Randy, you shouldn't buy a house right now. Well, when I started looking at my budget and I understood that like I could afford a house compared to what I was renting, I saw it from a different space. And so I took the plunge and purchased a home. The conditions weren't favorable, just to be honest with you. Looking at everything, I probably should have listened a little bit more, just because I wasn't aware of how to do finances. I wasn't aware of how to do the budget really, really well, okay? Because there are other hidden expenses that I didn't realize were coming from the house. I purchased my house at around 7% interest rate, which is where the interest rates are right now. Today is January 10th in 2023. And they're sitting around that space. Now they've kind of gone up and down, but that's where it's sitting. There's a lot of people afraid to buy a house because of that 7%. Well, that's why I purchased my first home. I was making very little money. It was my first job. And so I had a good income, but I didn't have that like oomph income. When you look at your expenses, I didn't have a whole lot of cushion, but I knew what I could do to kind of tighten up my budget. And I tightened up my budget so that I could purchase a home. We stayed in that home for a long time, and we're able to turn that home, that investment of that home, into our next home. We paid off all of our debt, and we used that opportunity that we created for ourselves a long time ago when we realized that our budget was what controlled our ability to purchase a home, not the market conditions, and we reaped the benefit of that. Now, I will tell you that, are there more favorable conditions to purchase a home? Yes, there are. There are always more favorable conditions to purchase a home, but that's always rolling dice. If I always wait on the most favorable conditions, I'm always just rolling the dice. So if you're looking to be able to purchase a home, start with your budget. I know that sounds so elementary. Probably spent way too long on this video just explaining that. But the reality is that that's the best time to buy and sell a house, is when your budget tells you you're ready. The last thing I want to leave you with is this. We don't always understand all of the costs of what it takes to actually get into that house. Now, we've worked out our budget. We've seen what it is that we can purchase. We understand where our purchasing power is. Well, the next thing that we've got to be able to do is understand, well, what elements of cost actually come into purchasing a home. Because that's something that's a little bit hidden, and there's cash that we have to have on hand to be able to run through those elements. If you're unaware of what it looks like once you get through your budget, understand that you have the ability to purchase. You go and get the mortgage side rolling, and then you come into this space to be able to get into the contract. You've got to be able to know what it is to be able to cost to be able to get into that home. If you're not aware of that, click into this next video that I'm going to put over here so that you can see it. And let's walk through and understand, what are the costs it looks like? What are the costs to be able to get into this next home? So again, guys, I appreciate it. If you like this content, please click the like button, click the save button, click the bells, click all the things. Follow me. I'm going to be around sharing as much as I can. The thing that I want to do is to be able to share as much knowledge as I possibly can so that you can make the best decision with what you have. There's so many opportunities inside of real estate, and I just want you to be able to capitalize on those. So click, share, like, all of those good things. Comment below if you have any questions. I'd be happy to help you. DM me if you have any questions. Be happy to help you with any of that stuff. No obligation. Just want to be able to share as much as I possibly can with you guys. So from my house to yours, thank you so much for coming in and sharing with me.